Hello and welcome back to ThoughtBot's AI in Focus. I'm ThoughtBot's CEO and a developer, Chad Pytel. And today we're going to be picking up where we left off. As you know, with AI in Focus, we either explore new AI tooling or different tooling, or accomplishing tasks with AI, or implementing AI features in our applications, real production applications whenever possible. Last week, we were fixing flaky specs, and we were using Copilot in our editor and Cursor to explore help fixing our flaky specs. And I had the idea of, at the same time as we were doing that, using a new feature that's on GitHub, where you can assign Copilot an issue and it solves it on GitHub or works on it on GitHub's servers. I discovered live that we needed to upgrade to a particular paid Copilot plan in order to do that. And so we needed to pause that. So we're back at it this week, and we're going to try doing the same thing. So I'm going to assign issue to Copilot. It'll start working on it in the background on GitHub servers. At the same time, I'll start working on it in my application locally. And that's what we'll be doing today. I'm monitoring the chat, so if I get stuck along the way, I appreciate the help. If you have questions or comments about anything that we're working on, or just Rails or development topics in general, I'm happy to take a quick diversion and answer any questions that you have. So don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. And as always, one of the things we do at ThoughtBot is we help people improve their existing products or bring new products to market. And so if you are someone who fits in either of those categories and you want some help, don't hesitate to get in touch with us at thoughtbot.com/hire-us. Okay, let's dive in. I've got my screen up here. We, on this product, we use Circle CI to run our specs for continuous integration. And Circle CI has a feature where, and again, it points out this data is refreshed nightly. So and the flaky tests it detects don't necessarily stick around forever. And so when it says like times that this test, let me zoom in, times that this test has flaked and it last flaked 3 days ago, I think this resets something like, every once in a while. But this is a good place to go to find the flaky specs. The ones that flaked 9 days ago, those are the ones we fixed last time on the stream. So they're still showing up here as flaky, but they'll drop off after Circle CI does several more runs and they don't fail flaky. So I've captured in advance this one. Paid time off report records includes reservations with time during the period. So you can click through here and go to the time where it failed 6 days ago, and it's going to show the thing. So I haven't looked at this in advance. I haven't solved it in advance. And so the only thing I've done in advance is captured what's here in this. And so let's give Copilot this issue. So you can see now we have, actually, let me zoom in a little bit here as well. You can see that we have Copilot, our AI pair programmer, and we can now assign this to that. So I'm going to assign that. So it may run into problems. One thing that's in my mind is, how is it going to run the specs? Is it going to open a pull request and look to see whether CI on Circle CI fails or not, or what? So it'll be interesting to discover along the way exactly how this works and potentially what some limitations are. So now let's go over to, I'm going to go back to CI. So like we discovered last time, one of the first things we want to do is run this spec locally. And it gives us the seed that it was run with. So we want to run with that same seed and see whether it happens as well. I meant to copy that. Just going to create a branch for our work. Okay, so the way that we run this is the -- seed option and 58036. So it's going to run it with the same seed. I actually sort of expect this to pass, but sometimes it will fail, and it's like, aha, okay. So when things run with that is the thing. What we didn't just do was run the whole suite with that seed. So there is a possibility that when the specs are run in a certain order, that fails, and so the way that we do that, there's a few different ways, but we run the same command that our spec is running. So that's going to run all the specs with that seed. So we're going to let that run. While that runs, I'm going to just go check over on Copilot and see whether it's running into any issues or anything like that. So what we see here is I assigned it to Copilot. It looks like Copilot immediately opened a pull request for that. Okay, so I'm looking at this for the first time, just like you are. So you can see it opened a pull request with a checklist of things that it is going to do. Okay. And okay. Yeah, Circle CI is running. So let's let that keep on going, and then we'll well our specs run here. So if you're tuned in and watching, I'm curious while the specs run, how often, if you're doing tests working in an app, um, how often do you run into flaky specs that are failing on, intermittently, either locally uh, or on CI? And how did your team prioritize fixing them? Is it something that you just push off into the background, hoping that someone fixes it someday, or is there something that uh, do you prioritize it as part of a sprint? Feel free to drop that in the chat and share how you handle this with your team. Okay, so I'm just checking here to see whether. So it looks to me like it is waiting for the. Oh, workflows will not run until approved by a user with write permissions. Okay, so I didn't notice that. So I'm gonna click on approve workflows to run. Okay, cool. Okay, so now that's running the. Okay, I don't want to look too much at that now that it started working, because I don't necessarily want it to influence us. So while those specs run, let's so now we're in a race against AI here. While those specs run, let's go back and let's take a look at this spec ourselves. So this is the spec that fails. It's line 8. So yeah, this is the spec that fails. Include reservations with time during period. Paid time off report. It creates a reservation, one that starts before the ending of the period, starts before and ends after, starts during and ends after. Okay. And so then we expect the report to include all the ones that we created with names in that order, and not include the one that we just happened, or that we created without a name. And so the failure is we expected. Actually, I'm going to go over here. Be, I think, a little easier to look at. So it expected 59, 60, 61, 62. It expected 11, 1307, 307, and it got 1, 307, 307, 11. So this is just the order of the specs. The spec is checking for a particular order. So the first question I have is, does the order actually matter? So what this is a paid time off report of a team. And so you're looking at the time off in a row. And I would guess that the order does matter. We want at least the ones there. yeah, I think date order does matter here, and that's why we're testing for it in the spec. And so let's then go over to the actual report. Okay, reservations for period seems to be the thing that is, so it's records that is being tested, reservations for period, and here's where it's defined. There's no order specified on this, and so they're basically coming back in any order. So this isn't really going to have anything to do with that seed spec run that's happening. It's just the order when you're not specifying it doesn't necessarily return them in the same order, in a determinate order all the time. So if we specify order starts on, ends on, I always forget whether order is the default is ascending. Yeah. So the default, if you don't specify it, it's ascending. So this we can start with starts on, ends on, ascending. Okay, I'm gonna kill that spec run and instead run the individual spec. Okay, it still passes. So with that order specified, we're now getting the order that we want in the spec. Okay, actually, before I open a pull request for this change, I'm going to, let's check on Copilot. So it finished work on behalf of CPyTel. That's me. So we've arrived at our fix. It finished 1 minute ago. We finished at about the same time. So let's go look at its solution and see whether it arrived at the same solution as we do. Moment of truth. Okay. So, okay. It refactored this to get the reservations for period as a base query variable, and then move the distinct down to that, and then order. And it included starts on, ends on, and it included ID. Now I'm seeing it also modified line 100 and did another thing there. So I wonder if it spotted something that we didn't spot. That's really interesting. Let's go to line 97. Oh, that's in the spec. Oh, okay. Where? Oh, it put the order up here in records, and it also put it down there. Now, I think this is one of the arguments that people have, to be honest, against this kind of work, because one, it's like, okay, do we really want, like, it would be too easy, I think, to just merge this pull request in, and because the tests still pass, and this little bit of sort of duplication or incorrect stuff compounds on itself. So each time we do this, what happens when more and more sort of additional incorrect small, this isn't going to create an error, but is it really what we want? And I think the answer is no, it's not. And so human intervention is necessary. At the end of the day, the only change that should really need to be made is this line right here. Okay, so I think we can leave comments on this pull request. So uh, let's do that. Um, let's start a review. So what I would do is if this was a real person, I would say, you know, how about or what do you think about just leaving this pull request only to a fix of the flaky specs? Okay. So I'm going to finish the review, comment. I don't know whether you need to mention Copilot in the. Okay, so Copilot reacted with the eyes emoji, so it's apparently seen it. So, oh, I had a typo. Just living this pull request. So obviously, like I was saying last week, like, we're doing this a little bit of experimentation. We already have a pull request. We were able to create it in about the same time. That in and of itself is sort of the fact that we were competing against it is a little bit of so I'm not sure how I certainly wouldn't wait here in a real world scenario to see what the response is. But I guess in theory, that's one of the powers of this. Like I could be working on a feature while Copilot is fixing the flaky specs. And even though I was saying it's, it's wrong, it did do the right thing at the end of the day. It just did more than was needed, and it did it in two different places. Um, and so it's not like it got it completely wrong, I don't know. Okay, Copilot started work. I see. So it started work again. Oh, you can view the session. Okay, so let me check the original state of the file before my changes. Looking at the comments and changes. Yes, this is indeed duplication. Has the ordering, and then the records method, I'm adding the same ordering again on line 37. This is redundant. I refactored the records method to use a base query variable. I added ordering in two places, which is redundant. The original issue was just about adding ordering to fix flaky specs. The reviewer is right on both counts. There is duplication of the ordering. The changes are more extensive than needed to just fix the flaky spec. I should remove the redundant ordering from line 37, keep the ordering only in the reservations. So it seems to be on the right track, possibly revert the structural changes to the records method if they're not necessary. Let me check that the original state was before my changes to understand. So it's still doing this. This is a little concerning about how, oh, there we go. Okay. So while that goes, I'm optimistic that, so rather than open my own pull request, I'm just going to commit this so we don't lose it. And since I'm just sort of moving on from this branch, I'm not going to make a detailed commit message. So while that goes, let's look at another flaky spec. This one, since I created the issue beforehand, this one actually, so this was a model spec, basically. The next one is going to be a spec that uses Capybara. So assignment records edit an existing record for an hourly billing project. So this actually is not a flaky spec, I bet. It looks like there's I didn't actually look at it when I grabbed it as a. So let's go to main. And let's run this spec. If it is a failure, okay, so let's see. It's line 36. And then the failure is an assignments controller. Oh, did I not run the right? Okay, hold on. Let's run the whole spec file. That's interesting because it's found unpermitted parameter confirmed hours. I went over to the controller. Confirmed hours is not here. But all the specs passed. I have a suspicion that this is actually not on main. Let's go over to Circle CI. Yeah, this is in somebody's development branch that they're working on now. So let's grab another flaky spec then. So this one here, I know is flaky, and it'll be interesting because this one not only uses Capybara, it's a JavaScript spec. Did I click the wrong thing? I'm getting the same. I'm clicking a different link and getting the same page. Let me refresh. That's weird. So this is the scenario that's failing here. And you can see it's a JavaScript spec. So not only is it using Capybara, it's running in Playwright. We switched this application to Playwright from Selenium a couple of months ago after a Chrome upgrade started breaking a lot of specs. It only took about 3 hours to switch to Playwright, 3-4 hours, half a day to switch to Playwright and get all the specs passing on Playwright. So if you're struggling with Selenium or something like that, it could be worth it to look at that. I wish, see, the problem with not being able to get this build, I'm just looking. It's actually linking to a different without being able to drill down and see it. I don't know which, like I don't have the backtrace or anything like that, which is too bad. But let's create an issue with just this minimal information and see whether we can. So this is a different kind of failure, I suspect. Failures with a JavaScript test suite. I happen to know this page is using like in-place updating of these form fields. So it's probably a timing issue. Okay. So we've created an issue with very minimal information. All the information we have, I know in the back of my head that this, I do believe this is a flaky spec. I've seen it fail and sort of have you see the failure. You're like, oh, I'll fix that later. I'm going to merge this pull request in with that failure. So, or you rerun it and okay, it passed that time. So let's assign the issue to Copilot. Okay, and let's check back on the other issue. So it responded, you're absolutely right. That was redundant. I've removed the duplicate ordering. It linked to the commit where it did that. Okay. And then so now it arrived just at that. And what did it respond to the other one? Good point. I've reverted the structural changes to the records method and kept the PR focus only on fixing the flaky spec. And this is the commit where it did that. Okay, so now let's one more thing to look at the actual change. So what it actually did was it did starts on, ends on, and then ID. And I didn't do that. I only did starts on and ends on. Having a minute to think about that, I'm curious what anybody in the chat thinks. But if our goal is to fix a flaky spec and our goal is to have 100% determinate ordering, this is actually the right fix, because even ordering by starts on and ends on, if our spec or our code in real life were to have two reservations that start and end on the same day, their order would be indeterminate. And that would lead to a flaky spec. It would also lead to one person looking at the report and seeing something in one order, and another person looking at the report and seeing it in another order, which could cause confusion and delay. For those of you who are Thomas the Tank Engine fans, I have kids, so that's a thing. So this is the right fix. I think that it would, would it matter? Maybe not. But this is like when we're thinking about the absolute correct fix, I think this is it. So I'm going to approve this change. I'm going to put a squid emoji on it because don't know whether. Oh, it's still in draft. Wonder why. I don't know what happens now. Oh, approve workflows to run. All checks have passed. I don't know whether Copilot on GitHub, running on GitHub, will merge a pull request. Let's see what happens. The tests pass, but let's see what happens with once all the things pass. It's still a draft pull request, so I don't know if at some point it's going to make it. So it's linting. So what do you think? If you're watching, what do you think? I mean, we were obviously able to do the pull request in basically the same amount of time as Copilot was. It arrived at a pull request that took some feedback from us, and then it made the change. And at the end, it actually arrived at a slightly better version of what I had done if we're really wanting to lock down the order on that report. Now, I'm obviously doing the same thing as that, right? But you could envision a scenario where I'm working on something a little bit more complex, more challenging, or just another flaky spec at the same time as Copilot is doing that. So it looks to me like it's relying on me to merge. I don't think Copilot is going to automatically merge the pull request. That's my guess. So what do you think? Feel free to, if you've been watching, let me know what you think about where this arrived at. And this says it's going to close that. So I think if we squash and merge, and so that issue is closed now too. Cool. Let's move on to our, so we assigned this to Copilot. So it immediately opened the pull request. Okay. So it started work 6 minutes ago. We've been talking this whole time. Let's jump over and let's work on the fix. So looking at this spec, here's the issue. This is a really common mistake if you're not paying attention or you're not quite sure how to test something. And so what's happening here is this JavaScript spec is filling in a form that auto saves to the server using Ajax. Do people still call it Ajax? Am I dating myself when I call it Ajax? Anyway, so and then what's happening is we're immediately in our Ruby code reloading that model and checking to see whether it got the new values. But it's likely or possible that sometimes this request doesn't finish before we go on to check that it was saved. And so the way to prevent this is instead we should in an integration test with JavaScript, we don't want to check the models. We want to be checking what appears on the page. And for what it's worth, if you can see down here below, you can see that I created this test 4 years ago. So I made the problem. So and I can imagine, I don't remember, but I can imagine why I did this, which is we're filling in the form field and the page is an in-place editor. Actually, let's see if I can start the server and we can. Oh. This number doesn't appear anywhere on the page except the form field. So once we modify that form field, the only place the value, like we can't say, oh, and then we want to make sure that the form field includes our value. Our test filled it in. There's no place to check on the page to see whether our change had an effect, which would cause Capybara to wait. So faced with that, I wrote the spec this way, which is a problem. Sometimes the request is going to finish before the save. Sorry, the request is going to take longer than our test does to check. Given the design of the page, I actually don't know. So let's look at the. Oh, I don't know when I have actual budgets here for. Maybe 2024. Yeah. So here's what I'm talking about. These budget fields, to make a change, we just need to say that, and then it auto saves when either you lose focus or if you hit enter on it, it auto saves. I'm surprised it's going back up to the top of the page, but whatever. So yeah, it reordered it down here. So I don't. So one thing, do you notice how it's highlighting? So does it highlight when? So it didn't highlight when it reordered the page. Let's look at the actual page. Here's the form. You can. Oh no, that's. Here's the form. Or here's the page rather. And we have a. So each of the fields has a form for that field, it has a stimulus controller auto submit on it, and then a change action to send that auto submit. And I'm wondering whether this responds with a turbo stream or something like that. So update, respond with. So it doesn't. So it's doing that full page refresh that we saw. But that's interesting because how is it doing the highlighting then? What am I missing? I'm missing something here. Let's look at the auto submit controller. Okay, if the event dataset turbo does not equal false, then highlight a thing. I said, so it's doing. So by default, the form with form 4 is going to use turbo to submit, right? And then I would have expected the let's take another look at how this page is working. So when I change this value, it's doing a full page refresh. This is going to take us long enough to figure out. Maybe Copilot will figure out it along the way. I don't know what, off the top of my head, what is happening here. It's so let's inspect the network. I want to confirm whether it's a XHR. I don't know why it's okay. So then if we do okay. So I think what's part of what's happening here is the controller gets submitted to update, and we're using respond with, and we're telling go back to the budgets path. So this is a redirect to the budgets index back to the same page. And so Turbo is seeing that submission and uh, reloading that page. So that's what's happening. We're not. It's auto submitting the form, but it's not um, doing that. And again, if we go back to our spec, um, even the fact that we now know it's going back to the same page, again, we can't check for the page to include 20 because if it for some reason failed and never leaves the page, the value we typed in is still going to be there. So my idea was to check for that highlighting and then confirm that it still works. Let's ah apologies if I pronounce your name Sire, if I pronounce it wrong. I like what you're thinking. You just called out that we get the success flash up here. And you're absolutely right. Good call. Uh, I was overthinking it with that highlight, but as long as we preserve that flash and don't change that, I like it. I like it. Okay. Um, nice. Okay. So we're going to expect a page to have content. Actually, successfully updated is fine. And then change these to be actually checking the values of the fields. We now no longer reference this variable. Okay. I hope that's going to pass. Sweet. Awesome. Thank you, Sire. That was a good call. Much simpler solution. Okay, let's go over to Copilot and see. So we've got our fix. Let's go over to Copilot and see where it's at. Solution added an eventually helper that polls the database with automatic retries until expected values are present. I added an eventually helper. Wow. Okay. Oh, I need to make the window a little smaller so you all can see. This is what the helper it added looks like. It loops through uh, sleeping 1 second until uh, it gets what it's looking for. And it defaults to waiting for 5 seconds and trying for 5 seconds. Okay. I'm still reacting to I'm still like, wow, okay, that is one way to fix the problem. Um okay, let's see what it each fill-in triggers an async turbo form submission. Good. Perfect. But the test immediately checks database values without waiting for the submissions to complete, causing intermittent values. Okay, it totally got the problem correct. And that's what we were able to get as well. Added an eventually helper that pulls the database as the solution. So it immediately just got on the wrong track. I think if we go, remember there was a way to view the session. Yeah. So let's see. Okay. So it's running. I mean, this is really cool. It actually checked out and ran everything locally in an in a Linux instance. Um, so it is not just relying on our existing CI setup or anything like that. Um, it set up RBM, set up everything. That's quite extensive. Okay. I wonder whether there's a way to thought that occurs to me is one. I wonder whether there's a way to get it to not have to go through these steps every single time. There probably is. Hey, now I can see the auto submit controller adds a item highlight class to the input field and then removes it after animation ends. This gives me a perfect synchronization point. Let me also check if there are any existing helper methods for waiting in the test suite. So it was on the right track or on the same track that I was. The key insight is that I need to wait for the form submissions to complete before checking the database. The auto submit controller provides a perfect synchronization point with the item highlight class that gets added and then removed. Let me create the fix. So, okay. What it did was it added an expectation that no CSS. And it says, wait, I need to think more carefully. The issue here is that there are multiple form submissions happening, one for each field, and I need to ensure all of them complete. Let me think about a better approach. I would have said the issue with this is that on initial page load, there is going to be nothing with item highlight. So it's just going to pass. Um, so that wouldn't have worked anyway. And it's right that there's multiple submissions happening. So I wonder whether this is a problem with our. Oh no, because we're going to modify the second one. This might be a little bit of a problem because there are multiple submissions happening. First one goes, puts this flash message on the page. The second one might not be done yet, and that flash message would still be on the page that time. So that's potentially a problem. If we were to move this expectation, it's still going the that flash message would still potentially be on the page when this form field is being filled out, just like over here. So let's recreate this scenario. We say, make a change. It's now on the page. We make another change, and it's still on the page. So okay, I sort of have a rule with flaky specs, and that is you shouldn't spend too much time on any one flaky spec. You should look at the other spec, and when you reach that amount of time, you should really start to reevaluate how much value the individual spec is actually giving you. And we have the creation of a new budget, edit an existing budget by deleting, filtering. So I think that we've hit our budget, pun intended, of the amount of time we should spend on this. And so a good fix is to make sure that our budget utilization doesn't match what we're going to edit to. Rates don't matter. Then I deleted the wrong. So I'm just simplifying this spec to only have the one field being edited. So to get rid of that secondary possibility of multiple requests not going through. Did I undefined method budget utilization? Oh, it's just utilization. So our specs are running now. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so that failed. Expected to find text successfully updated. I wonder if the change event doesn't actually get fired. Let's run it again. See what happens. This is a little tricky. I thought fill in. I don't know that that's actually the problem. That's my guess. So what I would normally do now is Google, but let's ask Copilot instead. Does the capybara fill in method fire the change event? Oh, I was in agent mode. I should have been in ask mode. I'm going to stop it. So it started agent mode, looks in your code to do things. It's not really meant for answering questions. method does fire the change event, but with some important caveats. The change event fires is triggered when the field loses focus. This happens automatically when Capybara moves to interact with another element. You can also explicitly trigger it by calling the blur. I'm going to just try this to see whether that actually fixes the problem. Let me make this a little smaller so that we can see whether that, so we can confirm whether that's actually the problem. And it's budget utilization, I believe. Yep, it is budget utilization. It's jQuery code, which we don't. Okay, so that was the actual problem. Now let's see. I just want to check to see whether we have an existing helper. No, we don't. So I'm okay with the solution of blurring to trigger the behavior. But I think I would want to just extract a method here to do it. So yeah, oops. Yeah. So then we can do blur field, and we can even, doesn't even need to be a string. We can say budget utilization. Let's make sure that passes. Cool, that passes. Move that method down. I'm a big fan of introducing methods in your specs to just regular Ruby methods to make things better named, make sure things are clear, and to make reusable things. Okay, let's run it again just for safety's sake. Cool. Oh, I was working in main the whole time. I'm just going to capture this quickly, so we'll write a better commit message before we merge in. But okay, let's go back to Copilot. So if you remember, it had done the initial implementation where it added the eventually method, which looped over things. So I'm wondering, so if we review the changes and we say, what do you think about waiting for something on the page to change instead of checking and then checking that the field is there, instead of checking the models directly. Okay, so we got our fix. Let's amend that commit. While Copilot goes off and does its thing. $8,405. Models directly. Dyson, that's a good question. What do you think? Part of your regular PR hygiene? It is part of the regular way. We have a great guide in our guides repo. And there's a great, someone at Thoughtbot did a great talk about pull request review and the way to code review. Here we go. So if you have more questions about this, this is a great thing. I'll put it into the chat here. Great guide to really good ways of having wording things on pull requests to make them, because one of the issues with written communication is it can seem much more confrontational than you actually mean it. And so instead of just saying, even if you strongly believe that we should check something on the page to change and then checking that the field is there, I would still preface it with, what do you think? It makes it so that it's more, comes off way less confrontational. So check out that guide to having reviewing others' code and having your code reviewed. Cool. Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. The spec was checking the models directly, and the asynchronous request may not have finished yet. This changes the spec to look for a change on the page and then check the field values so that we can be sure the request has been completed and to cause Capybara to wait. And then we also want to say since multiple fields were being edited in the original spec, the flash message may have already been there for the second request. Since our spec is testing the in-place editing, we removed the check, the editing of multiple fields to simplify the spec and reduce the chance that flakiness would continue with that second field. Cool. I was amending my original commit, so I had to force push that change. Let's check on Copilot and see what it's doing. It's apparently doing nothing. See if I... Oh, yeah. So, I guess maybe the first time around I was commenting on individual lines, I guess, that it had made. So it was watching for that, maybe. I don't know. But now it's looking. It's too bad. So we beat the AI this time. So we'll create a pull request and let it run on CI. While that's happening, we can request a review from Copilot. So this is requesting a review from Copilot is available on the free Copilot plan, I think. So it's something that you can do now. But let's, for fun, while we're at it, request a review. Let's check on what Copilot's doing over here. The user, C. Pytel, is asking about waiting for something on the page to change instead of checking the models directly. Let me look at the application code. Let me look at the budget views. I wonder if it's going to arrive at checking for the highlight, like I was going down the road for. Now, if Copilot was really smart, it would look and say, oh, Chad already opened a pull request with this fix. I'll just use that. Yeah, so it's investigating that highlighting functionality and that yellow fade CSS, which isn't a bad, it would probably work. Checking for the flash messages. Let me modify the test to wait for the item highlight class to appear and disappear, indicating the form submission completed. Then check that the form field values are correct. I'll be interested. I don't know how you would wait for that item class to appear and then disappear. Oh, no, if you check for its appearance and it's there, it's not there, it's going to wait for it to be there. And then it's going to go away. And so the next check for making sure that it's not there Capybara will wait a little bit to make sure it goes away. So that might work. It's not the approach that we arrived at, but I'm interested to see the implementation if it's able to actually do it. Now let me replace the eventually helper with a wait for form submission completion. Within table, wait a short moment. So it's explicitly waiting for 2 seconds. While it's doing that, looking at my changes, I'm having second thoughts about the approach. there might be multiple, and we would need to wait for all of them. That's exactly the problem we had with the flash message. Then verify the form. Wait for the page to reflect the changes, maybe through turbo updates, then verify. But actually, my current approach might be problematic. Wait for something on the page. It comes back to that. We should wait for visual confirmation that let me refine my approach to be more specific about what we're waiting for. Now it's just down to a sleep 0.5. Let's go back, see what it actually did. So yeah, it's just doing a sleep 0.5. I can't say never, but I would never just fix the flaky spec by adding sleep. I can't say never, but I would really try to avoid that. And Siri, it's for the reason you said.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
It's for the reason you said, where like it's a recipe for more flakiness, essentially, because we can't rely on the request taking a certain amount of time. What if something's reloading? It's just, I've seen in my experience, it's just a recipe for it not actually being good, and then it slows down your test suite because you're sleeping extra times. So it started to go down the highlight method, just like we did, but it then took a left turn to just adding a sleep. Okay, in the meantime, let's merge our so this pull request fixes the flaky behavior, remove comment suppressed due to low confidence. So it did not provide any comment. I didn't get my approval. Yeah, so I agree with you, Siri. We understand the direction it was going, but the implementation is not good. Okay, let's merge our work here. We need to pull because we use the rebasing, pushing, going back to main, merging. Okay, final thoughts. Drop what you think in the chat. We did one where it was fairly straightforward, non-capybara, non-JavaScript spec, just a fairly straightforward model spec. We quickly arrived at the solution ourselves while Copilot was working in the background. We took about almost the exact same amount of time Copilot did to open its pull request. And in the end, it was more complicated. We left a batch of comments on that, and then it arrived at the solution we did. But maybe one step further, it added the ID to the order as well, which guarantees the specific order on the report. And so we actually took Copilot's pull request and we merged it in as part of this session. I feel good about that. And Copilot helped us arrive at a 100% correct for the problem of the flaky spec solution. Second one, we beat Copilot. We opened the pull. I believe we opened the pull request faster, and we arrived at a better, what I believe ultimately is a better solution. We're checking the actual flash message, and in order to completely remove the flakiness of the spec, we did that. You can envision if we really cared about having coverage for every one of the fields on that page, we could add multiple scenarios. Sweet. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. And for those of you who are active in the chat, thank you very much for your help. Siraj, I wouldn't have gone in that flash message direction if I hadn't seen your comment. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. I'm on vacation next week, but we've got lots of other streams happening on at least the Friday. And so do subscribe to Thoughtbot's channel on YouTube or Twitch, or pay attention to us on LinkedIn. Follow us on LinkedIn, and you can get more of those streams next week. And as always, we are available to help improve your existing product or make a new one. We do great, amazing design for web and mobile, really good mobile development, and then also back end and front end web development, full stack web development. Most of the work we do is in Rails, and but we do other things when the need arises, when it's the right solution for the job. So thanks so much for watching. Don't hesitate to get in touch, and we'll see you next week.